Chris Jones was 3 years younger, then I would undoubtedly pick the Chiefs to go win this game. The issue is he's not as dominant as he was, and the Chiefs' pass rush just hasn't been as consistent because of that. What's going on? Welcome into My Take Is. Thank you for clicking on the video. Please subscribe as well. It's free. 3 videos that I'm doing today on what I think are the 3 biggest NFL games this Sunday. Colts going on the road to take on the Chiefs, and for the 3rd week in a row, the Kansas City Chiefs opponent is going to play a desperate Kansas City Chiefs team, and before this year, desperate Chiefs teams won. This year, they lose. They're hosting the Colts, coming off of a bye week, or the Colts are coming off of a bye week, and the Chiefs are favored by 3.5 points. And while I understand that they're the Kansas City Chiefs, and while I understand that from a numbers perspective, they're a little better offensively this year than they were last year, I think from a personnel perspective, they're a little bit better as well. But they're 5-5, and they didn't look very good against the Bills, and they didn't look very good against the Broncos. And those are 2 teams that the Chiefs have had a pretty decent amount of success against. The Indianapolis Colts are the only team in the NFL Patrick Mahomes is yet to beat, which it's not a huge sample size, so that's probably not a number to lean on. But what is true is the Indianapolis Colts have the best offense in football. They added Sauce Gardner at the trade deadline, which is going to make their defense significantly better. Charvarius Ward had been out for the previous 4 games for the Colts. He's back this week. That's now 2 elite corners that this Kansas City Chiefs offense is going to have to deal with. Leatu Latu coming off the edge has had a pretty solid year, and he's only going to get better now that the Colts secondary is better. This seems like a team that could give the Kansas City Chiefs a lot of issues. Oh, and let's also remember how Anarumo has consistently given Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the rest of this Kansas City Chiefs offense fits during his time in Cincinnati. And this Colts defense has more talent than a lot of those defenses that Anarumo was coaching when he was in Cincinnati. The last 2 weeks, this Kansas City Chiefs offense hasn't been clicking. They scored 21 points against Buffalo, and then they scored 19 points last week against Denver. This week, they're playing a tough defense off of a bye with a good defensive coordinator. That is not the best concoction to try to get back on track against. You want to play the Raiders this week. You want to go play the Cowboys. Like, when things aren't going well, you want to play the Bengals, a team that is a get-right team, a team that, like, you can go into it, you know things are going to go smoothly for you just because you're more talented than they are. That is not the case this week when they play host to the Indianapolis Colts. That's a really good secondary now. Nick Cross is one of the he's one of the best safeties in the NFL that no one talks about. Cam Bynum had a really good year last year in Minnesota. He's continued that this year in Indianapolis. Now they have 2 elite corners. Kenny Moore is playing. He's been one of the best nickel corners in the NFL for several years now. This is not going to be some walk in the park where Patrick Mahomes is going to throw for 300 yards and everyone's going to be back on the bandwagon this week. It's probably not going to happen. This is a tough draw for them. Like, they could fall to 5-6. That is 1,000% in play here. But it's Patrick Mahomes. And so if he does throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns and we are all back on the Kansas City Chiefs bandwagon, that wouldn't surprise me at all. He's still the best quarterback on the planet. It doesn't feel like that right now because the Chiefs are 5-5. Let me quickly just remind you of something. Patrick Mahomes is in his 8th year. I believe it's his 8th year as the Chiefs starter. At this point in Tom Brady's career, Tom Brady had already missed the playoffs twice. Okay, so for me, this does nothing to impact the standing of Patrick Mahomes in terms of him being the best quarterback on the planet. Okay, the team this year just isn't finishing games the same way that they did last year. I did a full video on it, and the main point of it is the difference is Patrick Mahomes isn't making the play late in games. And if all of a sudden he starts doing that, then we should all, again, be very terrified of this Chiefs team. Back to this game. On the other side of the ball, The Colts are going to score points. Shane Steichen's a good head coach. Daniel Jones has been really good this year, and they have the best running back in the NFL. If Chris Jones was 3 years younger, then I would undoubtedly pick the Chiefs to go win this game. The issue is he's not as dominant as he was, and the Chiefs' pass rush just hasn't been as consistent because of that. The 2 games before the Colts bye week, Daniel Jones played his 2 worst games of the year. Turned the ball over 1,000,000 times against Pittsburgh, and then really struggled in Germany against the Falcons. Those 2 teams did a better job than anyone else of creating pressure on Daniel Jones. More specifically, they did it with 4 guys. And I'm just not convinced that the Chiefs are going to be able to create enough consistent pressure on Daniel Jones with 4 rushers to take the Colts out of their offensive rhythm. Now, Spags is going to dial it up a couple of times. Those blitzes are going to be effective because they always are. But Daniel Jones is probably going to throw the football 30 times. I think people look at this Colts team and they see the offensive line and they see Jonathan Taylor and they just immediately assume that they run the football 35 times a game. That is not what they do. They're going to come out and Daniel Jones is going to throw the football 35 times. Jonathan Taylor is going to get 20 to 25 touches. Shane Steichen wants to throw the football. And Steve Spagnuolo doesn't have enough blitz packages to send 35 different blitzes at this offense. And if you do, Shane Steichen is one of the best play callers in football. Was when he was in Philly. He had, some bad quarterback play in Indianapolis. Now that he's got decent quarterback play, all of a sudden his team's really good and his offense is the best in the NFL. Okay? So I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be able to create enough pressure to really impact Daniel Jones. But if they do, then the Colts can just do what they did against Atlanta. They can just say, okay, here you go, Jonathan Taylor. And then Jonathan Taylor will just take over the game. At least that's what he did in Germany against the Falcons. And the Chiefs don't have some stout run defense. They're 17th in the NFL in yards per carry allowed. Meanwhile, the Colts lead the NFL in yards per carry. They're going to be able to run the football. And when you can run the ball, it opens everything else up for your quarterback. It allows Daniel Jones to play off play action. It makes you commit an extra guy to the box, which allows for Alec Pierce to, go deep and make a play on a jump ball. I think this is a tough matchup for Kansas City between the success of Lou Anarumo against the Chiefs, the improved defense for the Colts with that addition of Sauce Gardner, and how just unstoppable this Colts offense has been this year. I have to take the Colts, a well-coached team, off of a bye to go on the road and not just cover the 3.5 points against Kansas City. I think that they beat the Chiefs outright. Some years, things just don't break your way. And it seems like this year is going to be that year for the Chiefs.